Hi, folks. Welcome back to Sparkle on Substack with me, Claire Venus. I'm so excited today to finally be speaking live with Simon. Simon and I have been chatting for a good few years now, and we're just so happy to be sitting down and recording the podcast. Hi, Simon.
Hello, Claire.
How are you doing today?
Doing great. Yes, it's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me on your podcast.
You're so welcome. Simon and I were just discussing the fact that we think it is spring now, so we've decided that it is spring, so we're leaning into the spring
It's
energy.
absolutely spring.
Simon, for the people that don't know who you are and what you do, could you give us a bit of an introduction as to you and your Substack presence?
Right. Yeah. So I run a Substack called Footnotes and Tangents, which started off life on Instagram and moved over onto Substack a little over 2 years ago. And um, it's a book group, a book club. What I mostly do on my Substack are read-alongs. I call them slow reads because I set a very leisurely pace. And the kind of flagship read-along that I've been doing every year since I started has been Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace, which is a chapter a day over the course of a whole year. And I've been running that each year, and then other ones alongside it. And what I do on my Substack is each week I put out a post, recorded also as a podcast, with discussion of that week's reading, and people discuss in the comments. So it's a combination of a book group community and a set of book guides, because as these posts build up, they turn into a resource in and of themselves that people use in their own time, to kind of enhance their enjoyment of these books.
Yeah, it's sort
So
of
that's
become like
basically what I do.
an ex encyclopedia, hasn't it? Because there's so much depth in these books. Like these aren't easy to pick up on holiday books, are they? Like they're really in depth, like once in a lifetime if you get to it, like that would make you really proud type books.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of philosophy behind it is that you might a lot of people who go into who sort of participate in these read-alongs appreciate the extra help I provide, sort of character lists and character summaries and all sorts of additional resources. So particularly a classic like War and Peace, that can really help. But I also kind of have the philosophy that like whatever you get out of a book it's a useful experience, whether it's just a small thing or it's a large thing. And what Footnotes and Tangents does is it just offers you all sorts of kind of different rabbit holes to run down and explore. And it's a kind of a pick and mix thing. It's not a academic course. There's no test at the end. You don't have to learn all of this. It's to give that sort of spark that curiosity that like if you read something, go, oh, well, what does that mean? Well, there's bound to be me and a bunch of other people reading it with you who are also wondering the same thing, and we all go out and find information about it. So it is an encyclopedia, is a good way of putting it, rather than perhaps a course where you're expected to know all this stuff. A lot of the stuff
Mm.
I'm learning for the first time,
Yeah,
as
and I bet
well.
there's more each and every time you read these books. There
Yeah,
must just be so much more depth and like, yeah, pieces of understanding that come from that. It was really interesting. As you know, my husband took part in the slow read
yeah,
along of War and Peace last year, and it was really beautiful being a witness to that as a creative practice, like an outlet for him, an anchor into his day. I think there was a couple of break days, but for the most part, it was like 365 days of reading a chapter every day. And then even some of the conversations that we had, and we didn't have a lot of conversations about the characters. I'm like, I don't know how my brain would be able to hold all of that. There
Mm,
does seem to be a lot of holding of different types of characters and how they weave in and out of each other's lives. And then
mm,
obviously our experience of that, lived experience of, whether that's judgment or whether that's adoration. And then the author themselves, who obviously isn't here anymore to give us the
mm.
answers. So it's all self-discovery, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and I think one of the beauties, and especially of a year-long read-along like War and Peace, the other big one I do is Hilary Mantel's Cromwell books, is that because you're reading at this slow, leisurely pace, and I think David found this, um, you read a chapter, you say War and Peace, you read a chapter each day, and all of the stuff that happened in that chapter is kind of running through your mind throughout that day, and you end up having conversations or just thoughts about it, and you're living the life with the characters
Mm.
rather than racing to the end, and it does allow you to make connections with your own life and with things that you see in the news and other things sparking all sorts of other things just because you've slowed down and living with it a bit more.
Yeah, it was really majestic to watch, honestly. It was magical. And I don't know whether that comes across because obviously you're hosting, it's different for you and you are reading along and you've read these books and you've created all of this, but then there are all of these people in their homes going through this creative practice that you've set up. I just think, yeah, it's really impactful, Simon. Like it's incredible work that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to, like I say, it's kind of hard to quantify, even if
Mm,
if you wanted to quantify it. Um, uh, all the different reading experiences that are going on that are to lesser and greater extent um, influenced by what I'm writing and producing. I mean, there's some people who are probably interacting with it on a very, very minimal basis, which is absolutely fine. And there
mm.
are other people who are kind of reading absolutely everything that I write. Um, and some people who are interacting more in the comments and having so it's kind of there's like this sort of myriad of reading experiences going on, and I most of it is completely unknown to me. I mean, I just very recently put up a sort of an online forum because I sort of want gathering people's stories because I kind of want to know people's stories a bit more because there have been some incredible stories, especially people who have maybe got out of the habit of reading, lost the pleasure of reading, and this has been a fundamental part of them getting back into reading or building confidence that expands beyond that.
Yeah.
If you can read War and Peace, what else can you do?
Yeah.
So it's I mean, I hate to be sort of glib and sort of say, can change lives and be transformative, but some of the stories that I'm getting back sort of suggest that it potentially can
I
in
think
all
it's
sorts of
definitely
ways
that.
that you can't anticipate. So on an individual level, you don't know what this one reading habit that you commit to on the 1st of January, where it could lead to. You think, oh, some dusty old classic. It's hardly going to. Who knows what it's going to do, but it can actually do all sorts of extraordinary things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. It's fascinating. It's been really fascinating, like I say, to watch Dave. I'm really curious about the metamorphosis of you having this Instagram account and how that ran, and then coming to Substack and deciding that you would be able to do a similar thing, I don't know, a different type of thing on Substack, and then the other metamorphoses that have happened since then, because I used to use your Substack as an example of a Patreon model, when people were stuck around,
Mm.
how do I quantify what I give monthly and people are paying monthly and what does it mean? And if it's not a paid newsletter and it's not a membership, what can it be? And so I used to use it as that example. And then we had a chat and you said, oh, I've changed up the model a little bit now. So I'd love you to just talk us through the timeline from Instagram to like here and now.
Yeah. It's it's the sort of progression that it's gone on has been sort of taking up more and more of my time, and um, that needing some sort of remuneration, some justification for me to carry on doing this as opposed to other writing work that I was doing previously and freelance writing. and other jobs. It started off on Instagram, very much a sort of passion project where I thought, I loved this book. I want to do this. Does anybody else want to do this? And you know how Instagram, the bizarre way the Instagram algorithm works, where you sort of put up a post and you don't think anything's going to happen to it, and then thousands of people see it. And my kind of little Bookstagram, Instagram account kind of exploded at that point, with lots of people going, "Oh yeah, this is a really good idea." And it's not even my idea. I mean, people have been reading War and Peace chapter a day for many years, and I'd seen someone do it on Instagram, and I thought. I'd love to return to one of my favorite books and do it like this and see what it's like, see what slow read does to a book that I love. So I did that on Instagram in my stories and posts for a year, spending far too much time doing it, um, and building up the material, because I was sort of writing a little summary, a little discussion each day, and I got to the end of it, and partly I wanted to do other books, but there were also a whole bunch of people say that they wanted to do War and Peace with me next year. And I was also thinking, I got all this material and it's kind of ephemeral and sort of lingering around on Instagram stories and in those kind of highlights. I don't remember having all those highlights and stuff on Instagram. Um, and I just wanted to put it all somewhere that would be like a library, that would be a kind of I would fix posts. And I looked around, and there was Medium, and there's all sorts of different platforms to use. And Substack seemed to be like catching a lot of people's attention at that time. This is sort
Mm.
of end of 2023, I guess. Is that right? Sounds right. And it's it had all sorts. I had this sort of vision that I could turn these Instagram stories into longer posts, provide audio, which was quite a kind of big, exciting thing that you could do on Substack, and put in videos and things like that. And then, but the thing about it was that I had no idea whether anyone was going to give me any money for this. So in that first year, I turned on paid, but I kept everything pretty much free, um, and just asked for people to support me. Um, and there were a few kind of paid extras, which I kind of regretted offering, because that then became something that I felt like I also had to do on top of all this huge amount of work that I'd set myself. But sort of fortunately, people, I think people are really willing to pay for good content, good writing, good things that they want to be part of, and uh, even though it wasn't behind paywalls, people were subscribing and becoming paid, and taking out annual subscriptions. And very quickly, I was in a position where I could just work on this full time.
Mm.
So I did that for a year. And then once I'd done that, and and I'd been running two read-alongs alongside each other, War and Peace and Wolf Hall. I'd created all this material. I mean, the other thing is that I didn't know whether people were going to pay for it, and I didn't know whether it was going to be any good. So I didn't want to tell people that they had to pay for it if they didn't want to pay for it. But once I'd produced it and once it was there, I felt confident that this does have value, and I do feel confident about putting it behind a paywall.
Mm.
And when in my second year on Substack, I created new read-alongs which were free again, because they were experimental, they were new material. But the stuff that I'd created, I felt like I could stand by them and say that they are worth paying for. But at the same time, I have always offered complimentary subscriptions to anyone who says that they can't afford a subscription. So if people can pay, most people, just take out a monthly or an annual subscription. But quite a few people just send me a message and say I'm a student, I don't work, I'm retired, but I really want to be involved, and I don't need any evidence or any proof or anything.
Yeah.
I'm just so I call it a soft paywall,
Mm.
and that's worked. It's worked very, very well, and each year, because of the fact that I do these year-long um, slow reads, most people's subscriptions renew at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I have a very kind of um, scary Christmas where I don't know whether anyone's going to stick around, or anyone's going to be interested in next year's things. Because most of it sort of all happens between Christmas and New Year. And so far, each year it's got bigger rather than smaller. And kind of here we are, into the third year of doing it on Substack, which is it's very exciting. It's been far more successful than I could possibly imagine. Really, that I could be sitting here saying that like my job currently is reading the books I love and writing about them.
Hmm.
It's just
A
bonkers.
beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that answers
Yeah,
that
definitely. And
question. Yeah.
I feel like it's that dedication as well. Sometimes people will see people arrive on Substack and be like, "Oh, like it's like this huge overnight success." And that's why I wanted to dig into what you were actually doing on Instagram beforehand as well, because quite often, if not on another platform, we have been doing this work. Like, and I had a bit of that with mine, I've been mentoring for 25 years. Like I've been
Mm,
doing artist development for the same amount of time. Like I've put the graft in, and so being able to do it in a way that works online around my family is just a dream come true. And I feel like similar for you, having a young family and knowing that you
mm,
can set your week up to be there for them. And also doing stuff that you love, it does feel like a dream come true. It is amazing, but also
mm,
it is still your job. So there is still that piece of like insecurity around being paid. You still are reliant on the subscription model and how that all feels and fits in. So yes, you're building up a tolerance to it, but it is a fearful place to be, isn't it? At those renewal points, you're just not quite sure how it's all going to pan out.
yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, and I remember getting very disillusioned with traditional social media and Instagram, especially, which is sort of where I had kind of set up where I was doing my writing and my reading, because, well, for lots of reasons, but uh, I see a lot of people, myself included at the time, doing an incredible amount of work, um, and everyone's doing it for nothing.
Mm, hmm.
And you talk about a sort of on traditional social media, the you being the product, sort of you're there, you feel like you're in control, but you're not really in control, and you're not, and also because it's just it's everyone's working for nothing. It's all free stuff. So no one's going to pay anyone for anything. Moving over to Substack, where it sort of became acceptable, it became it's okay to ask
Yeah.
people to pay for your creative work, and that would become the norm. Um, and that, I think, for a lot of us was just incredibly a sort of game changer, because you just felt like every minute that you spend working on these projects is valued,
Mm.
and is valued by the people that are subscribed to your newsletters and your podcast and everything. And it's just, I don't know. It's and the other thing about Instagram was sort of being completely at the mercy of algorithms, and it was all about whether your photo or your reel looked good enough to sort of capture enough people's attention for the algorithm to push it on more people. Whereas, um, I mean, I probably took a few hundred people with me over onto Substack.
Mm.
But since then, it's been recommendations, word of mouth, um, people taking part in the first year and going and telling their friends and family that it was an awesome experience and then more people getting involved. So you've got that kind of energy of word of mouth. And it's in a way it's just as uh, bewildering as an algorithm because it all happens out there. There's people talking about your what you're doing and recommending you at like I mean I get this weird feeling that like sort of come Thanksgiving in the US when sort of families start getting together and then Christmas and they go, what have you been doing this year? Oh, I've been doing
Yeah.
Simon Hazel's War and Peace read along. What's that? And the people having this conversation, if that feels very, very weird. Um, but it's lovely um, and it's just much more human. The whole experience is infinitely more human than how I felt on Instagram.
Mm.
Especially, I mean, because I was interested in reading and writing, and Instagram is a medium of pictures and now pictures and videos. And I absolutely hated taking photos of books, but that's kind of what I had to do in order to convince people to
To get
read
them over the
what I'd
line.
written.
Yeah.
And I absolutely hated taking photos of it. So I would have when the whole thing moved on to reels, and the only thing I hate more than taking photos of books is taking videos of books or videos that wasn't videos of me talking about books. So the whole thing just felt less and less me.
Mm.
And what I do now, um, and I'm very impressed by people who can do that. And I was thinking about YouTubers. I was watching someone's um, YouTube videos talking about books, and I go, well, this is lovely. I couldn't do. I mean, maybe I could, but at the moment, I feel very, very uncomfortable
Mm.
trying to do that, and the work involved in editing it. Whereas what I do now, which is write posts and then read them to turn them into podcasts, I just feel very, very at home and comfortable, and it feels very natural to me. So it was a no-brainer in a way, the
Mm.
transition.
It's beautiful and it's good. You touched on so many different points there. I do feel like social media is entertainment. Like there is that piece of social media where that's where we're being entertained. And the people that do make videos for social, we're looking at hooks, we're looking at 2-second transitions, if not less.
Mm.
The attention span is really shrunk, whereas on Substack, the attention economy is different. I was speaking to somebody the other day talking about doing a live, and I said, we'll sort of chat for about 45 minutes and she couldn't believe that people would watch a 45-minute video. And I was like, yep, I'm gonna get 500 downloads on those, so those are the Substack lives because it's different. There's a calm nervous system. People are expecting things in a different way. I don't know how much of that will last, but I know that if someone is subscribed to a publication and the publication has an identity to it, they develop a parasocial relationship with the identity of that publication and sometimes with the person behind it as well. So with yours, with my husband's, the witnessing was like, oh, it's Simon's update, and like that was the energy. Oh, Simon's update, or like leaning in, it's Simon's update. What's he going to say about this? And that's fascinating. It's fascinating that we can do that. Like, what a beautiful gift, but it also is multi-layered and complex, and not everybody is having the same experience when we are putting work out. So, yeah, I feel like I'm really grateful that we're running this race together, if it's a race at all, but it feels fun. I wanted to talk about those metrics. So obviously we have dashboard metrics, we have monetization metrics, like we get into a bit of a swing with, okay, we've done a year now, we've done a second year, we're into a third year, fourth year, all of that sort of stuff. How does all that feel now? So it can feel like a bit of a high, when we get a bestseller check mark or these kind of arbitrary badges or whatever, but also it can feel like pressure. And I'd love to hear your take on all of that.
Um, I mean, it. is overwhelming. It the success of Footnotes and Tangents has been kind of on the sort of kind of metric side of things has been completely overwhelming in that like it's I mean I tell you, there's in the sort of bestseller rankings, um, George Saunders is up there at number two. And for anyone who doesn't know George Saunders, American b- uh, Booker-winning author and academic, and lovely, lovely human. Um, and I'm below him at number three. Now that doesn't make sense to me on any level. Like I if I'm never going to overtake him. But if I overtook him, there would be something fundamentally wrong with the universe. And I think there's sort of something fundamentally wrong right now that I'm there at number three. So the metrics are kind of um, I almost sort of can't connect with them because they don't really make any. I can make sense the individual sort of human stories of subscribers and readers talking about their enjoyment of the slow reads and the rest of it and loving the podcasts and things like that. But when I just sort of look at those kind of crude numbers, it's it's sort of too so that it can make you feel um I think the sort of inferiority complex sort of kicks in where you sort of feel, well, I'm definitely not as good as George Saunders. I mean, objectively not as good as but what am I even doing in the top 100, like I'm just making this up as I go along. I'm pouring all of my kind of love and time and passion into this. But yeah, I find it's much easier to focus um, on kind of the individual level of kind of like I'm proud of this post, I'm proud of this material, and I'm enjoying these conversations that I'm having with people. Because if I kind of just look at those numbers, they don't make any sense to me.
Mm.
Um, so I don't try to let it influence me in the sense that like I mean so one big thing is do you want to maintain that? Do you want to kind of keep um, um, that level of quotes success? And theoretically, hypothetically, a way to do that is to is to sort of work to the market to kind of to pick books, for example, that are going to be huge crowd pleasers
Mm.
and you because well that's something that I'm saying is that kind of I got lucky in the sense that one of my favorite books happens to be War and Peace, one of the big books that everyone says that they're going to read and they've been putting off for years you know um now if I wanted to kind of keep doing those big hits, sort of do Les Miserables and do Ulysses and sort of do all these kind of big books that people want to read, that are fearful of doing, and people always ask me, "Oh, you can do this, you can do that." I go, and the thing I say is, I haven't read Ulysses yet, um, and my rule is, if I love it. I'll do it. And if
Mm.
I love it and want to reread that book, we'll do it. Um, but I'm not chasing the numbers, not chasing the audience. I have picked some wildly bizarre books later this year, and obviously I feel like because I've had this sort of level of success and there's luck, a bit of
Mm.
luck attached to the kind of the first book that I picked. Um, it allows me to pick sort of slightly more outlandish uh, um, books to read. But at the same time, like I think that if I did um, chase the numbers and try and make sort of the world's biggest book group and the all of the soul would suck out of it very, very quickly because I would end up committing to doing books that I don't want to read and certainly don't want to reread. Um, Whereas I think what comes across in my writing is my love of the books that I do. And I think that's one of the big things that people enjoy about it. And hopefully that means that I can convince people that they to love books that they didn't think they were going to read and to come along for the ride of the books that I choose rather than the fact that I'm doing the big ones. So that's sort of quite a rambly response, but um, it's it's very great to have um, to get into this position.
Mm.
But it's important. It's really important not to kind of get carried away. And think the answer is always to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's sort of to now to look to like where's the new interesting place that you want to go. You want to take this. Um, Especially rather than kind of repeating the same formula because it worked so well.
Yeah.
Um, so I think yeah, to take risks and to kind of follow um, your sort of inspiration, your passion, and your ideas, um, and numbers can distract you from that, I think.
It is a really interesting model. I feel like it's really interesting the points that you make about George Saunders and Substack leaderboards in general, because I've not looked at my position for a good while, maybe even 6 months now. I just don't go on there. And I think for a while I was on there a lot. I was like, how is this doing and how does this work? And how can I talk to everybody about it so that they understand it as well? And when the Rising came in, I just was frustrated because people were like, "Oh, look at this, I'm rising." And it's like, you're rising because you've just had two people pay. Like, I don't want to take anything off anyone, but it's like, that's really difficult to be caught up in those metrics. And I feel like media platforms do this to us a little bit. So we have to like have a little bit of we have to stand back a little bit and be like, okay, what's feeling good to us? So, like I said, I haven't looked at my leaderboard position. I know it'll have gone down, so that's probably why. And I love what I do.
Mm,
So I'm just like, oh, well, this is what we're doing. But also, I feel like with your work, to give credit to you and what you do, the first time I heard about it, I got it. Like, I understood what it was. I've told thousands of people about it since. I've not told thousands of people about George Saunders. I've never read what he's written yet.
mm,
I'm not in that phase of life. So I
mm.
think there's this really interesting positioning where we understand something. We understand how to communicate it and who to communicate it to, and things ripple from there. So I definitely found that with my Substack experience, that people would say, Claire's the Substack expert that you need. If you're an artist, if you're a business owner, if you've been writing on Instagram for years and you want to monetize. So people would find ways to describe what I did. And then I would have these people that were like, oh, you're the person. And I was like, okay, yes, I am. Like, that's cool. And meeting people where
Mm.
they're at. I think it's so interesting because we are breaking the fourth wall all the time in our work. It is participatory, so it is different to a fandom, although it can go into those spheres as well. I just find it all so interesting. I'm very interested in the parasocial in it all as well. So,
Mm.
those connections that we have and how long we have them for, how long we want to be subscribed to somebody or something for, because we don't really know that yet. Like, it's a new-ish model, isn't it? Especially for people that are normal.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And um, I think absolutely that kind of sort of like you don't really know when you set out to do this how many people are going to be interested in. I mean, going sort of a couple of questions back to the kind of like I it seems unlikely that there'd be enough people out there that would want to read weekly kind of a 3,000 word post, discussion post about this book that we're reading.
Mm,
Surely everyone, what people really want is a traditional book club where we all sit in a circle and we go around the circle and,
mm.
um, and people do love those things. But like, surely there's not enough people out there who really want to do this. And worse still, from someone who doesn't really know what they're talking about. Um, so um, it's kind of it's all like jumping into the dark. And what's lovely about it is that it's kind of using the internet for good in the sense that sort of your people are finding you. So over the 3 or 4 years that I've been doing this, um, people who, like me, sort of read in the same way that I read, and also love chasing all those rabbit holes, and also love reading these sort of posts, and they all start to come together, and that's sort of how you're slowly kind of building a community, and because you're online, you're tapping into that community across the world. When I was on Instagram, I was very much aware that most of the people that were following me were in the UK, I think, UK and
Yeah,
India.
yeah,
India was sort of quite big. There were a lot of bookstagrammers in India. But as soon as I moved on to Substack, the US. I mean, the US Substack was so much further down the road in the US. And within a few months, most of my subscribers were in the US. So it was a kind of complete transformation of it was very very strange.
mm,
So for example, really bizarre thing like the fact that suddenly the fact that I have a British accent became an aspect of what I do. People go, oh, I love the sound of your voice. I love that.
yeah.
I've never thought of my voice in that way. I've never never thought of my voice as something that people would want to listen to.
Mm.
But like, people love the British accent. So,
They do, and it's
um,
rare. I think, we forget how big America is. America is huge. Britain's tiny. So
yeah,
there's that piece,
yeah,
and
no, absolutely.
it's same, it's like that piece, isn't it? Of like as a woman with a Northeast accent, although it's like sort of mild, but it is there, people are like, what, say that again? You just like what? Yeah, it's curious, but I love it. It's great.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like the sort of fact that I love Scottish podcasters or Scottish audiobooks read by Scott, because we do have attachments to certain accents,
Mm,
and we're not aware of it. We're not aware of kind of like the value of the way we sound. So, and quite the reverse. I initially felt very cringy about recording my own voice, but at the same time, quite passionate about the fact that, um, well, maybe it wasn't passion at first. It was a feeling of how on earth, for years I've been trying to get people to read 300 words of an Instagram caption, and now I want you to read 3,000 words of a discussion post. There's no way anyone, like you say, there's no one's going to do that. They might just about listen to me read it to them. So it was a bit of a kind of out of desperation, sort of I'll record all my posts. And then people go, oh, well, we really love the audio version. Okay, right. Okay, so this is something that I'm going to keep doing and is going to be a big part of it.
mm,
Um, and Substack kind of makes that quite helpful with the sort of you can publish them as podcasts, and then they can download the podcasts on other apps and things like that. So it makes it very easy to do that.
yeah.
Um, but again, absolutely bizarre to know that people are on a weekly basis listening to you talking about me talking about War and Peace or something.
Yeah.
It is just bizarre. In all over the world and in all sorts of situations that I just can't possibly imagine.
No, it's
Um,
those subscriber maps, isn't it? That was one of the metrics that I absolutely loved from the off on Substack when you pull up your world map and you can see all the countries lighting up, and then it felt like a bit of a game to fill in the American states. I remember sort of saying like, what did I do wrong in this state? I can't remember what state it was now, and
well, I discovered doing this year that we had a reader in Antarctica, which was
wow,
just just bonkers so
it's
wonderful.
amazing. Yeah.
She sent me a postcard actually, and it was just it's just lovely. Just yeah, I love hearing where people are reading, and again with the read-alongs and the books, you've got that sort of sense of everyone's on the same page. So it's sort of even though because reading is such a solitary experience, and at the same time can connect you into this community, so that you
Mm.
know people just in 100 odd countries are reading the same chapter of War and Peace on the same day, and then getting together and talking about it. It feels like something that could only really happen in 2026 in a way.
Yeah, that's it. It's like of its time, isn't it? I wanted to ask Simon, I feel like, and I don't think I'm remembering this wrong. I think that you had a bit of a shout out on a popular podcast, a big podcast. And I wanted to ask, have there been any other moments in this journey where you have recognized that there is a person in your community or a person that shouted you out where you've been like, wow, like that feels massive that that person knows about my project?
Um, well, I mean, the big one that you're thinking of was Gretchen Rubin, who I didn't even know existed. Sorry, Gretchen. Uh, but at the end of the first year on Substack, Gretchen Rubin is she in New York or California? I'm not quite sure where she's based
I
actually.
think
But
so.
she does. She's got the Happier podcast, and which she does, I think, with her sister and her and their mum did the first read along, and presumably told them that they had to do the second year. So I woke up one morning for a bunch of messages saying, Gretchen Rubin's mentioned you on her podcast. I go, who's Gretchen Rubin? I don't know who she is. Um, and so I went and listened to her podcast, and you'll appreciate this. It obviously was amazing that someone with an enormous podcast, an enormous number of people downloading it, was plugging uh, your Substack. She wasn't just doing that. She very, very clearly explained what it was and what people needed to do in order to the two or three important key steps. Because I mean, one thing we haven't really talked about is that I do sections on my Substack, and that it's a two-stage process. You've got to subscribe, and then you've got to turn on the notifications to
Yeah.
get that particular book. So there's a few hurdles, and I was just like, oh wow, she's not only just plugged it, but she's just explained how to do
He's
it
done the admin as well.
like a pro. She's just done all the admin,
Yeah.
um, and over the next few weeks, thousands of people came in saying, I'm here because of Gretchen. I'm here, but okay, brilliant.
Hi.
Um,
Hi, everyone. Yeah.
yeah, suddenly my demographics sort of and everything skewed to New York State and California, sort
Mm,
of, um, so there was that podcast. There's another American podcast, Sarah Stewart Holland, it's a politics one,
mm.
that plugged Wolf Crawl, the Hilary Mantel one. So there were a couple. Those two happened quite close together, which helped things really take off. I'm trying to think of anything else. Um, I mean, certainly you sort of gain this profile, and you don't really know who your subscribers are or who your
No.
subscribers are talking to.
You can't keep an
So
eye on it all, can you? You have to turn those notifications. I don't get any notifications from
yeah, so
Substack
you
because you can't.
so you people. if you're doing well and attracting attention, then people sort of get in touch with you, sort of from within the industry and
Mm.
within the publishing industry and things like that. And you're like, oh, okay, so people are paying attention, and because it's just you and your laptop, you and your, you're just kind of beavering. You've got you're kind of like, and in some ways it's a very lonely experience, because you don't work in an office, you don't work as a team, um, and you're just kind of plugging away, doing your thing, week after week after week, and then you get people halfway around the world who you've never spoken to, sort of saying, "Oh, I love your stuff, and would you be interested in this? Would you want to do this?" And then you go, "Ah, where has this all come
Yeah,
from?"
yeah.
So it's a very jarring experience,
Mm.
combination of very solitary and very connected.
Yeah, yeah, that's a beautiful way to describe and articulate it there, Simon. I feel like with the position in peace, so we are on Substack, right? Like we write our newsletters on there, we host our paid communities on there. Is there a piece of, because you had this on Instagram before, is there a piece of your longevity or future vision where this looks different to it being on Substack? Obviously, we know how easy Substack make the tech. We enjoy all the conversations with the writerly folk. There have been some shifts the last little while, there's been lots of changes. People feel quite bogged down by some of that stuff. Do you feel any of that? Do you feel like you might move it somewhere else as a project, or do you feel like you want to stay for a good while?
Um,
I mean, it's all
I mean,
on there. That's the big piece of it.
yeah, I mean, it's all on there and it's all there, and in a way, the hassle of moving it off there right now would terrify me. So I'm kind of hoping that um, Substack continues to deliver, and that most people are happy with it and happy to stay with it. I mean, um, it doesn't work for everyone, and there's sort of a level attrition, as people who aren't gelling with it or for whatever reason.
Mm.
Um, I and there is an anxiety around. There's now a bit of an anxiety around leaving, if you wanted to, which worries me, just because um, the writer Tom Cox, who
Oh,
left
Tom, yeah, that was all quite messy,
last year,
wasn't it? Yeah.
and he he got into a bit of a pickle, because he moved his newsletter off Substack, and it's kind of like the you got the subscription model, and then if you move off it, um, uh, you can sort of end up getting a lot of Stripe charges and a lot of things sort of
Disputes and
attached to it, and
stuff, yeah.
it just
It's
and it
it
all
is
gets a bit messy.
and it's concierge, but it's not a flawless because humans are human. If we're working on a 30 to 40% open rate, that's still 60% of people that didn't open the email
Yeah,
that you where you told them, six times that you were moving. It's really hard, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So how to if you were going to move off, it feels like an enormous amount of work now that I wouldn't want to do. So I've got no plans to do it anytime soon, and it's I can I'm mostly happy with. I mean, I would say that really. I mean, it's completely changed what I do. So it's um um yeah. At the moment, I can't sort of see the situation, the scenario where
Mm,
I'd want to move off
mm,
the
mm.
platform.
Yeah.
Um, I think um, uh, yeah, if I mean, I know we've talked a bit about in the past about kind of how video focused other social media platforms have been, and that was one of the reasons. Another reason that I moved away from Instagram was kind of the fact that it was both pushed on you
Mm,
as a a user of Instagram, and as a creator, you felt like you had to make it. Um, and it's sort of the internet just it's like you say, short attention spans, very, very busy.
Mm.
Um, if Substack started pushing both the subscribers and the creators down that route,
Mm.
then I'd feel increasingly uncomfortable if it moved away from the written form. But when it's done that on Substack, and it did that a while ago, and I was one of the people that sort of said, well, we're here because we don't really want that. We don't want these autoplay
Yeah. Oh,
videos
they
in
listen. They
our feeds,
listen. Yeah.
and they actually listen to us, and
Yeah.
and by default they turned off
Yeah.
the autoplay, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, that's good,
Mm.
um, which I do not use my Instagram feed. I don't look at my Instagram feeds because if I look at them, they force you to watch videos. And I don't want to be forced to watch videos.
No. Yeah.
So I don't I post things on Instagram, but I don't look at the feeds because the feeds are just all cluttered up
Yeah.
with reels.
Yeah.
Substack has got its equivalent, it's got notes, and I can happily scroll through that because I just don't feel like I'm being
Assaulted.
like sort of goggle box
Yeah.
assaulted
Yeah.
by all
Yeah.
these videos. So I think
Yeah.
that that's quite an important thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we all find a lot of us find that quite it's very addictive and very
Yeah.
yeah, it just swallows up all your time.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's it. Yeah. I feel like the only other piece of it, and I think this is always really interesting to speak to people about, is that we give Substack 10% of the income that comes in. And for
mm,
me, that is totally worth it. I love doing the work that I do. It makes sense financially. It makes sense to be on there for visibility and all of that sort of piece of the picture. The complicated thing when you're registered in the UK, is that there are some complexities around other taxes that we have to pay. So I get
mm,
asked this question a lot, like how do you deal with people that buy from Europe? What do you do, because you need to charge VAT because I'm VAT registered and all those sorts of things. And there's only so much that I can say about that other than I have to work with an accountant. Like, I'm not going to
mm,
spend my time reconciling all of that, going into all the weeds of all of that. But essentially, anything that you do online, anything that you sell online, it's not a free lunch. Like there is a component part where you're running a business. Like it's not, maybe if people have sort of started as a bit of a side hustle and they've not thought about it and then it's taken off, like there are things that we need to work through. But essentially, there's a business acumen piece to the relationship that we have with Substack and the relationship that we have with our customers, our paying subscribers. So I feel like I've got like a good answer on that stuff now, but I just wondered if you had any insight yourself into how that's felt because a large amount of customers at once is new. Like it's different to being paid as a
mm.
freelancer or a writer or being commissioned for something. And I definitely found it new. There were things that I had to learn, things that I had to deal with, things that I had to outsource. So, any advice on any of that stuff?
I mean, not really. I mean, I like you had to get myself an accountant and had to sort of get more clued up on the business side of things as it took off. And like you say, you start these things as sort of a passion project or a side hustle, and they become your your job. I mean, the thing that I had to do a year into it was kind of register Footnotes and Tangents as a company um, because I just got this sort of income influx in a space of a couple of weeks, and you go from being sort of not paying any tax to kind of paying tax on this enormous
All the tax.
income
Yeah.
that just sort of came out of nowhere, so I had a very sort of I mean, these are I got myself an accountant and said, you've got good problems, rather than bad problems. These are good problems to have, but it was just kind of like sort of mildly terrifying. It's the mildly terrifying side of
It's enormous.
having a
Yeah. Hmm.
successful business.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, So this sort of bizarre situation where we go, oh yes, okay, well, what you need to register this as a company and organize it as a company. And again, it's you're there. Oh, really, you just want to do the work. You just want to do the I just want to do the reading and the writing and the research and focus on the newsletters. So it's a bit of a headache that there's all that kind of admin and finance and business side that comes with doing this. But so I was going to say, getting the accountant that was allowed me to take a big deep breath and go, "Oh, okay, right, I'm paying someone to to help me through this, and so I don't have to worry about this." My gripe, if I'm going to make a Substack gripe, and I think they know that they are not. Doing enough on this front because I've had a series of tetchy emails with them. Um, very, you know about this, very occasionally, as we say, Substat subscriptions get charged back, get disputes on them on Stripe, and I get two or three of those each year. Um, and they're annoying because there are lots of additional fees attached to them, so that when someone challenges a transaction, um, uh, all the fees attached to it, that if you try and defend it and lose, you end up, footing a much bigger bill than the original thing. And if all of those built up, and this was the problem with Tom Cox because he got a lot of these when he moved off Substack, it can be quite scary to get all these additional charges. Um, the problem right now with uh, Substack and something that they really need to sort their act over, and they've said that they are going to change the way they do it, is that they tell you that they'll prepare all the evidence for you.
Mm.
Um, but because Stripe has put these fees, attached these fees to losing, Substack don't guarantee that they're going to fight your corner. They might just let the whole dispute drop.
Mm.
Um, uh, and if you try and do it yourself, which is what I tried to do when I got a couple of these last month, if you try and put your evidence on Stripe and sort of fight your corner, then Substack won't do it. They won't help. So
Okay,
it's either you or them. And I didn't
right.
realize this when I
No, I didn't
started
know that.
when I got involved. And I thought, well, because I've got some evidence that this is a legitimate purchase and transaction, and I've got the email correspondence that I've had.
Mm.
So Substack don't have that, so I'll provide that, and they
Mm.
presumably provide all of the IP addresses and all of the sort of behind the scenesy stuff that they
Mm.
have,
Hmm.
and combined, we've got like a perfectly good case. Um, and they said no, no. If you put your evidence forward, then that means that we can't. You're on your own. And
Okay.
so
Mm.
I got very frustrated with that, and I think they're kind of they're sort of it's a sort of a bit like the kind of VAT stuff. It's sort of where they've got this sort of ambiguous relationship with you. They're partly they've created this marketplace,
Mm.
um, and they are defending you and supporting you in certain ways and not in other ways. And I think that can be quite, especially if you're starting out, I think that can be quite intimidating. And I think I didn't know most of that, so I just sort of
Mm.
dived into it and then found out these things much later. But
Yeah. And
um,
those are the sort of business expenses pieces that I mean. So, people
yeah,
miss the emails or say they didn't get the emails for renewal and they ask for a refund. I can send them a refund, that's fine, but it's going to charge me and it's my time. So this is frustrating. So there's those pieces as well that I feel like when they say they didn't get the renewal emails, I know there's two of them, but did they not get them or did it just get lost or what happened there?
yeah,
So there's those pieces that feel it doesn't feel nice anyway, but people usually need a refund for genuine reasons, and that's like that beautiful human to human connection. But essentially, with other industries, like if you've bought something and it's not faulty, you can't take it back. So it's like, I can't go back to Lidl with my basket of oranges that I
Mm.
bought last week because they were perfect. I can with these from this week because two of them were moldy. So it's that piece with working online that it is just very different. It does seem to fall more with the customer than it does with the business owner in lots of ways. And, we don't want to get too wrapped up in it because it is a tiny percentage, but I think it's just one of those pieces of settling into knowing that you are running a business and Substack is going to help you get better at business just by its very nature of the way that it's set up.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, in a way, this is quite a small gripe, and they are very, very good and very responsive.
Mm,
At when I sort of send them emails and ask them about all sorts of other things. It was just over this one thing that
yeah.
I felt that they really weren't helping. Um, but I think exactly that. I think there is a there's a you have it. If there's a human behind this whole thing, and
Hmm.
I'm people send me emails and say, oh, I didn't mean to renew. Can I have a refund? And I go, absolutely. Um, there's just me behind it, and the last thing I want you to do is pay for something that you're not going to use.
Yeah.
So it's those sort of credit card chargebacks
Hmm.
disputes where it
Hmm.
becomes like a dispute, and you're like,
Yeah, that doesn't
what
feel as not
what are
yeah,
we
very
arguing
nice.
about? And
Yeah.
there's just a human behind who really
Hmm.
doesn't want to get additional fees and will quite happily
Hmm.
give you a refund.
Yeah.
I'm not in the business of taking money off people for things that they're not
That they
using
don't
and
want to
they're
be
not enjoying and
using.
they
Yeah.
don't want. So if you're and I think, yeah, if you're subscribed to something and you get one of those, just email someone, email them and say I didn't mean to, and
Yeah.
we're not
Just
Netflix
sort that
or
out for
whatever.
you. Yeah. Just that's
Uh,
it. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's it. And we are front and center, like I do have my DMs set to paid only because I wouldn't be able to manage the noise. I just wouldn't be able to manage the noise of people that wanted to DM me about things. I just think, people can email if it's important. They can reach out. They can even reach out via Instagram, but I just had to like put that boundary up. But for the most part, I'm front and center all the time. I'll be on notes daily. Like I think that we are by the nature of who we are as people, but also because of what we do, we are approachable online. So I do think there is that piece of it
Mm.
all. It's been beautiful to speak to you, Simon. I've really appreciated your honesty and understanding more about the timeline. The work that you do is stunning. I know that from my own point of view, but also from my husband's being involved. And I just feel like it's something super, super special. Before you go, do you want to tell us a little bit about the literary agent and where people can find you online if they want to hook up with your work?
Um, yeah, if people want to find me, it's footnotes and tangents.substack.com. Footnotes and tangents is also still on Instagram. I oscillate between not using it at all to going back to it. So that's where you find me. Yes, as of this weekend, really, I now have a literary agent. I'm now represented by Curtis Brown. So that this is something that's just come out of what I've been doing. It's come out of Substack. An agent got in touch with me before Christmas, and I had a couple of calls with her and started to talk about book ideas. And now they've taken me on. I also spoke to Penguin as well. So people notice if you put your heart and soul into
People pay
something, and
attention. Love
people
it.
people
Yeah.
pay attention.
Yeah.
So that's that's amazing, and that means that I'm now starting to think about books. I'm starting to think about what's the next step,
Mm.
and how I turn what I'm doing into books, which is exciting. So that's the
So
next project,
exciting.
and
Yeah.
I've got an agent to help me
Hmm.
navigate that world. So
Yeah.
So that's the big news for me this
I
week.
love that. And so congratulations. Like I'm so pleased. I just happened to see it yesterday on notes and I was like, oh, it's perfect timing because I'll be able to say congratulations to you. So well deserved. And I can't wait to see what that's going to be. Like we're going to be in your corner shouting about it, buying the book whenever it comes out. We're dead excited for you.
Fantastic. Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Simon, for being here. It's been amazing to speak to you. And I'll catch you again really soon. Take care.
Great. Take care, Claire. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.